Hello and welcome to a new new sound to Rugby League Down South. With the success of the debut season, the next few episodes as planned will be more feature interviews, not full-on programmes. So still your thoughts and comments, but in more bite-sized chunks. It'd be good to know if you prefer it this way, and the programmes will certainly be a bit more regular this way round. You might get a few editions even this week. For your comments, as ever, email rldownsouth@gmail.com, or you can tweet at Ian Ramsdale. Use the hashtag RLDS anytime you're talking about the game in the South. So, for the first episode then, with the Rugby Football League Chief Operating Officer, Ralph Rimmer. Now, I did speak with him a few weeks ago, quite a few weeks ago in fact, for a BBC London programme which I produced. That is a programme which you can also still download for the next week on the BBC podcast pages. But it was the week following the Super League Grand Final that I spoke to Ralph, and just after the Super League clubs had pulled the plug on the EGM to get through the new structure that week. So I met Ralph in London in a cafe. I spoke with him about the Rugby League World Cup, which is of course ongoing now, the Broncos, the RFL, and also Championship 1 and the triumph of the new clubs for this year. Here is my chat with Ralph and the year 2013.
Well, I think it's been an outstanding year for the game, and it culminated in the grand final on Saturday, which I think, from anybody's point of view, has to be viewed as a fantastic success. As you say, I remember us talking back in February time, possibly at Hemel. We were discussing how the new clubs would fare in the Championship 1 competition. It's a very, very tough competition. I have to say there was some apprehension in there, despite the fact I was talking the whole thing up. But they have all really excelled. I think they've been a credit to themselves and to the communities. They've added a huge amount of value to the competition in many, many different ways, in the players they brought, in some of the sponsorships they've brought as well. And I think even the most hardened of sceptics have been won over by what they've achieved.
How relieved are you that it has gone well?
I'm delighted is the first word. Relieved certainly is true. I think the relief probably came after the second week or so, when I could see that they were all performing well, and then as they continued through the season, the whole thing began to flourish really, and then at the end of the year, when you see two of those new teams make the playoffs, and you also see the one that didn't make the playoffs basically was the turning point of the competition and determined who the eventual winner of the competition would be. And not only that, it's given a platform to some of the teams that were in the competition prior to this, that has enabled them to develop as well. So you saw Scholars had a really, really great season. They clearly made the Northern Rail Bowl final, and they again made the playoffs. So for a whole lot of different reasons, I think it was a really, I wouldn't say it was an experiment. It wasn't an experiment. It's proved to be something that's taken us forward a long way, I think.
Well, does this show that the structures that you put in place in order to accept these teams into the league really does work? There's been a lot of debate about licensing. Does it work? Is it needed? But you had a strict process. The league was hoped to be 10. It only ended up being 9. But you said these clubs are able to do it. They've got the plan to prove they can do it, and it's worked.
Yes, I think virtually all you say is true there. One of the reasons for looking at this type of expansion at this particular level was the fact that the barriers were low, or lower, I should say, and that certainly helped. Nobody should be under any misapprehension that the playing standard is high. It's a high-level competition, Championship 1. It would rank above any of the Conference League competitions, and they again are good competitions. So it's not a walk in the park by any stretch of the imaginations. The three teams that have come into the competition have done so with very different structures behind them. I've made them all work. That was and those structures were very carefully analysed before they were allowed to come in. As you say, ideally would have had a 10-team competition, but in the end, it was felt that they didn't quite achieve the standard that was required to make it successful entry. So in the end, I'm delighted to say we went okay. Yeah.
How much should we look into the fact that this has been the first ever truly national league that professional rugby league in this country has ever had. You know, people look, and we've talked about it on our programme, the profile of the sport. People look at the sport sometimes, if they don't know the game, go, it's a northern sport, and it's struggling to get away from that image, really. How much is this going to help, do you think?
Well, first of all, it isn't just about pins on maps, although they do count for something, certainly they do. But it's the nature of some of the teams that have come in as well. I've just given us all, if we're really honest, given us all a different dimension. You know, Oxford certainly brings something that Rugby League has never had before, as does Gloucester, to be fair, as well. And Hemel again. All of those three teams have brought different ingredients into this competition. So, yes, they made us look more national as far as pins on map goes, but nevertheless, more than that, they brought a different character from one that we're normally used to dealing with, and that's really important in breaking down some of the perceptions that continually exist within this sport that we do strive very hard to break.
Do you think that in any way might be helped by the Rugby League World Cup this year? You know, it's here in a couple of weeks' time. Everyone's hoping it's going to be the saviour in a way, that it's going to get the attention, that it's going to grab people, and people are going to see it and want to go and see Rugby League. Do you believe that is going to happen?
I think lots of things have happened this year that will change perceptions of the sport. The World Cup is certainly one of them. If I go back to Championship 1, their current sponsor, Kingston Press Cider, were undoubtedly induced into the competition by the fact that we had that national spread, which we never had up until this point. They've been a fantastic sponsor, which has led to them being an England sponsor as well. So you will see them featured in the World Cup. Now, on top of that, the World Cup up to this point, and I know they're not all announced yet, but has brought a commercial sport portfolio that has never been a part of rugby league so far in this country ever. So again, that will bring another dimension, and many of those commercial partners that we brought in, we're now talking to about converting them into the game. That's another added attraction to the World Cup. And as far as the World Cup itself goes, at this moment in time, you know, there are 14 nations coming to this country. This is only the 8th sporting World Cup that has ever been held in this country, so of course it changes perceptions. It will be a contest that brings in new fans. Currently we are at 70% of fans that have currently bought tickets for the World Cup have never bought tickets through the Rugby League before, so that's a new fan base. So we've got a new fan base, we've got a new commercial base. As far as the big hit's concerned, on the 23rd of November, you know, there's over 25% of the tickets sold for that have never been to a Rugby League match before. So yes, it'll be a huge stimulus for the game, and it's one which we need to take advantage of.
Do you think it really will, though? Because people have looked at it and said, well, they haven't seen too much information about it. They, you know, they've highlighted the marketing of the competition, and okay, people might see it and go, I'm interested in one game, and go along. It's only surely part of the solution as to trying to get southern people to watch rugby league, isn't it? It's not the answer.
No, it certainly isn't the answer, but we just need to work out a strategy, which I think we have, which helps us to convert some of that new interest into week in, week out rugby league. You know, part of the other strategies that are involved, of course, are the expansion of Championship 1, perhaps some new teams coming into that. And on top of that, we have been working on a policy review which has been going on for some 15 months, which again is about how we can extend the tentacles of the game into the further reaches of the UK and make them stick. And I think if we all move together as a sport and don't take our eye off that prize, that can be a prize which will help us develop from here into the future at a much greater rate.
Are we in danger at all of over-egging the Rugby League World Cup and saying that it's going to do more for the sport than it actually is, and we're going to look back on it and be disappointed? Should we not be saying, well, it will be a good thing if we can use it in this way, rather than going, it's going to be amazing, it's going to be this huge success, and everything will just happen?
I think that's right. I think it will be amazing. I think it will be a huge success, but it counts for very little if we don't know how to convert that into pounds.
And are those plans there, though?
Yes. The plans are very, very definitely there, and despite the fact some people may, some of the sceptics out there may want to say that it hasn't had the cut through that you would like at this moment in time. You know, we have we have page after page of national news on what is going on in the Rugby League Cup. This is something we have not had before. There are certain gifts out there which are falling into our lap nicely. Sonny Bill Williams deciding he's going to play, certainly didn't do any harm. 3 Burgess brothers in the England team. They are suddenly, we are turning the pages on national newspapers and suddenly seeing big stories on what this Rugby League Cup is going to give us, and we should absolutely put ourselves in a position to take advantage of that.
Is that really the case, though? I mean, do those papers have the same editions in the north as they do in the south? Is the region that you want to concentrate on, are you getting the coverage in those regions, or is this just preaching to the converted?
It cannot be about preaching to the converted. We get a breakdown every day of what media cut through we get. Certainly we're having a bigger impact in the north than in the south. But still, if you were to compare what we're doing now in the south as to what we've done in previous years, we must be 400% or 500% above that at this moment in time, and it will grow. This year was always about events, and we had obviously the Rugby Union, the Lions Tour, we had the Ashes series, and the next stop along the way was always going to be the Rugby League Cup. We've now dropped into that window. The event is 2 weeks away. And those stories that have been bubbling for a while, have been waiting to find the right window, are now suddenly starting to find it.
2 weeks before the competition, though, shouldn't we have already sold out? Shouldn't we be, you talk about the Olympics, they were talking about it 6, 7, I know it's a lot bigger a competition, but people were looking forward to it for years. Everyone knew it was there. Does everyone really know the Rugby League World Cup is here, or have you struggled to get that message out?
Well, you'll always find anecdotal evidence that will say that I never knew it was happening. But I can tell you what's happening as far as ticket sales go. If we talk about the big hit, for instance, we're somewhere between 40,000, 50,000 tickets sold at this moment in time. It will be a huge crowd. The final, again, is...
Shouldn't it be sold out, really?
Ideally, of course it should, but at this moment in time it isn't. This will be, though, without any shadow of a doubt, this will be the Rugby League World Cup in any part of the world that sells the most tickets. I think we're already beyond that stage of selling the most tickets. This is 14 nations, 21 venues, 28 games, and that is, the cup that was held in Australia was 10 nations. Without doubt, it's going to have cut through. We can always, and we should. It's right that we should. Always say we should have done more, always say we should have had more cut through. But if you make comparisons with the Rugby League competitions that have existed before this, you can make like-for-like comparisons, and you'll see that we are producing a tournament here, largely thanks to the work of Sally Bolton and Nigel, that is going to obliterate anything that's gone before it.
And how does this all fit into what you consider to be the current state of rugby league in London and its surroundings? Do you think that it's helping? Is the sport going the right way? Broncos are having a difficult time. Fingers crossed they can get it sorted, but it's still a struggle, isn't it, in London?
London is it's a very difficult part of the puzzle. We do some things extraordinarily well in London. We have somewhere 3,000 plus players in London, juniors and seniors, which is credible and creditable. From that we produce some really good athletes that make their way into Super League, and of course we get athletes now that also support 1 or 2 or even 3 Championship 1 teams as well. So there's plenty of good quality development that's going on, which proves that London is worth doing, certainly worth doing. And again, if we talk about the fact that there are somewhere in the region of 30% of the tickets sold for the big hit are new to rugby league and from the London area, that definitely proves to us how much support is here and what we need to captivate in order to go forward. If we can convert any of that into the support of the Broncos or Hemel, or attract more supporters to even to the community, more supporters and participants to the community game, it shows you what a big prize it is. And London is a big prize. To every sport, London's a big prize. It's got many important features to it. Commercially, it's at the hub of what we're doing. Many of the sponsors we're bringing to the World Cup are London-based sponsors, and ideally, again, we're looking to convert those into sponsors of national competitions and maybe club sponsors as well. So it's a great opportunity to make an impact in what has always proved to be a difficult prize for us, but nevertheless one worth working for.
Does that show that maybe rugby league, the game in London, needs more attention, needs more resources, needs more things aimed at it, not in terms of the Broncos and propping up a team in Super League, because people don't want to see that, and I think that's right. But does the game need to do more in London away from that, to try and get those people, to try and get those brands, to get to make the game more nationally recognisable?
Well, as we spoke about earlier, Ian, we have our commercial base. The rugby league's commercial base is actually based in London.
Which is important.
It's very important, and it was a strategic decision taken by the governing probably 2.5, 3 years ago, and since that point, that has proved to us all the worth of having them there. And I say some of the sponsors that will be a part of this tournament, and some of the sponsors that will be seen next year in Super League and the like, will be a reflection of that. We are having some impact in the capital, never as much as we'd want, but we are having some impact in the capital on a commercial level, and also, as I say, we're beginning to stimulate the sort of numbers from this area that we always knew were there and just needed to find the right product in order to work them out.
And just finally, back on the events of this week and sort of the whole restructure and the confusion and the pulling out and the cancellation of the EGM earlier in the week, do you think this week might go down as a really significant week in the history of the game? I mean, have we seen something that big, or is this a slight bump that we'll get over?
I don't know about this week. I think this year will prove it, and I said it at the start of the year as well, in a make or break fashion at that point. I think this
year... It looks
year...
like breaking it at the moment, that's the worry.
I don't think it'll break it. I think this year will be one of the most significant years the sport has ever had, and I believe we'll come out at the end of it having had a massively successful World Cup, having brought 3 new Championship 1 teams into the competition, and having eventually realigned the sport, which will take it on to a far greater level of achievement at every single level of every single tier of the competition. In the end, we all want more spectators, we want more viewers, and we want more players, and there isn't anybody in the middle of this current debate that would argue against that. So with the amount of consultation that's gone on, and no doubt will go on over the next few weeks as well, I think 2013 will be a pivotal year for the sport, and in the end of it, by 2014 we'll all wake up rubbing our eyes, thinking we're in a hell of a lot better place.
So there it is then, Ralph Rimmer, and the first of a new look of a shorter Rugby League Down South podcast. There will be more stuff coming out later this week, but I thought instead of doing all the interviews back to back, giving you all in bite-sized chunks, and you can pick and choose which ones you listen to, and we will of course include more of your thoughts and suggestions and comments, so keep them coming. As ever, rldownsouth@gmail.com if you want to email anytime, or you can tweet at Ian Ramsdale. Always use the hashtag RLDS. And, well, yes, hopefully another podcast out later this week for you.